What is up, you beautiful people out there on the internet? It is I, Michael Shockman, here with a new episode for you guys here on the DM Shockman Institute. This week, on this Wednesday, being the premiere episode of our new series, our kind of catch all and slush fun series, that being Reviews in the Institute, where we review pretty much anything that I just kind of want to do a review of. It might change. We might get a little bit more structure to it eventually, but for the time being, it's just going to be kind of whatever we have around the house. Probably focusing mostly on either vape juice, different types of alcohol, or other adult things that are acceptable for the internet. But we may do some other stuff too, so stay tuned. Today, as a kind of a celebration that's kind of inspiring me to do this, after I have completed my first shift successfully of my first day of at a new leading tech firm, which I'm very happy about, considering it went as well as it probably could have been expected to, all things considered. We are having a little afternoon tipple. We are as such going to be reviewing what I have for that tipple, which is Canadian Club. Now I've never had Canadian Club before. Much like the Ardbeg thing, I am kind of in for a treat, I think. But at the same time, I have done a little bit more research on Ardbeg, more or less. And the research I have found kind of indicates that it's a very simple, very lightweight whiskey that's intensely intended for mixing with like Coke or something like that, or other mixers. It's not really intended when it was created to be drunk neat or even on the rocks, which is how I have it. But a little bit about the Canadian Club story, how it was founded. Back, I think, in the 1910s, there was a young gentleman by the name of Hiram Walker, who out of Detroit, Michigan, was brewing whiskey in the United States. And he decided that with the growing popularity of the temperance/prohibition movement, that he was going to move up to Canada and continue his stuff there in case anything were to happen. And lo and behold, about 10 to 15 years later, prohibition happened, and he was very thankful. So much so that all of the Canadians, first off, loved his whiskey. It was good stuff. And then he started, after Prohibition ended, he started to import it down to the States, where it was put into a lot of Midwestern and later other parts of the country clubs. And it was just labeled plainly as the club whiskey. He kind of had an exclusive agreement with most of the nightclubs and places of gentlemen's clubs, not those kinds of gentlemen's clubs, the traditional kinds of gentlemen's clubs, where gentlemen go to puff on the pipes and everything like that. Anyway, getting back on track. He had an exclusive engagement and agreement with those types of clubs that he would sell to them exclusively, and they in turn would buy from him exclusively. As such, a lot of the people who came to these clubs really liked his whiskey, and apparently it went really well with like cigars or pipes, as well as with other things that were being used for mixers. And they said, "Hey, we want some of that. We want some of that club whiskey." And then, in order to kind of differentiate his club whiskey from the whiskey that was served on house or in house by the people who made it, because back in those days you could do that, he was asked to put the name Canada on it, seeing as it was brewed or distilled in Canada. So he started putting it as calling it Canada whiskey or Canada Club. Over the years, over about 20 or so years, people continued to enjoy it, and they kept on saying, "Hey, we want that Canadian Club." Until eventually, at some point in like the mid 20th century, he decided, you know what, I'm just going to change the name permanently. And so, lo and behold, since then and forevermore until otherwise stated, we have Canadian Club, which leads me into the next section, which is the flavor profile and the smell profile. So on the nose, from my research, the nose is very light, if almost non-existent. It's got light bits of like spice, a little bit of vanilla, maybe some slight amount of pepper, like black pepper and stuff like that. But is really just not there. Um, And from what I've read on the taste, on the palate, it has flavor notes of uh, vanilla, um, spice, sometimes a little bit of butterscotch and or caramel, and a healthy amount of oak, and then that in order that I just mentioned, that it kind of goes from the front of the tip of the tongue, all the way to the middle of the tongue, and then once it hits the back of your tongue, the flavor just fucking disappears, like seriously, from what I've read, and I guess we will have to see by taking a drink if this is true, and I'll give my own thoughts after so. So here we go. Cheers, y'all. Okay, I do want to point out a disclaimer here first, really quick. I wasn't exactly saying full truth when I said I hadn't had it before. I had tried recording this beforehand, and unfortunately, I figured out some weird stuff with my background. It had been having some issues, and I got it figured out. So I have to re-record this video, which is what I'm doing now. With that being said, I can say that having tried it in the previous version of this video, neat, instead of on the rocks, uh, neat, it definitely has a relatively intense vanilla flavor up front, followed immediately by kind of a buttery, kind of nutty flavor, and then following immediately by that by some spice, and then finishing on the middle, towards the middle back of the tongue, with a slight amount of oak. Not like peat or anything like that, but just very oaky and kind of, not harsh, but just kind of not sweet, like very savory. And then it just disappears, and I can confirm that. Can confirm. Um, what I can tell you about the having it on the rocks, is that the oaky flavor disappears completely, and as does a lot of the spice. All I taste is vanilla, butter, unctuous mouthfeel, and butterscotch, and that's it. And then within, like, after I take a sip, within like 2 or 3 seconds, it's gone. So if you like simple whiskeys and you just want to have something for every day, I could definitely see this on the rocks being an everyday drink for me. Would highly recommend anybody who likes simple, light flavors and doesn't necessarily want to get too in depth and stuff. Just kind of for an everyday drink, I would highly recommend it. However, if you are looking for stuff that's a little bit more intense and a little bit more maybe nuanced or complex, you're better looking elsewhere. With that being said, I can definitely. We're now going to move into the next and last section of this review, that being the kind of summary and rating. Um, I have to split the rating into two parts. First, for beginners, I would say this is a great and amazing even entry into whiskey. In general, but also especially a good entry, not only in terms of taste and flavor profile, but also in terms of cost. Because I'm up here in the Pacific Northwest in 2022, and this only it cost me like $16 to get a handle of it, like a 1.75 liter bottle, because I'm planning on having a little bit every now and then. I like to buy in bulk. Um, but yeah, it was like $17 after tax or before tax, for the handle, and the um, the fifth of it was only like $9 maybe. So yeah, uh, from a price point, it's extremely approachable. And from the flavor standpoint, for somebody who's just getting in and is maybe you don't want to scare them off with something too intense at first, would highly recommend this as a beginner. Now that moves us into the second category uh, of things, where if you're an experienced drinker and you're an experienced whiskey lover, this is definitely, I would say, going to leave you lacking and leave you wanting. You're going to be wanting more. It's very light. It's very unnuanced. It's not complex at all. I've got pretty good taste buds, which is why I was able to really pick up a lot of the flavors and where they were at. But if you don't have those and you need something to kind of punch you in the face, as it were, this is definitely not for you. So from the beginner standpoint, I would have to give it a 4.75 out of 5 for a simply because of the cost ratio for the experienced drinker and for the experienced whiskey lover. I would just from the cost ratio, I would have to say it's probably a 3.5 out of 5, which kind of averaging those two out, I would say it's right into the middle. It meets at a 4 stars out of 5. So. I would highly recommend this if you're looking to have something cheap for a party, that's actually still pretty decent and has a decent flavor profile and isn't rot gut. But if you're looking for something complex and to kind of have over an afternoon and just have an experience, this is not what you're looking for. Still, I really enjoyed it, and I'm gonna keep drinking it. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your wonderful Monday today when this is being recorded, and I hope when you're seeing this on Wednesday, uh, um, that you have a wonderful day. I hope this video finds you well, and remember, as always, guys, I'm Michael Shockman. I've been your host and commentator, and until next time, keep it real, keep it safe, keep it healthy, and we'll see you guys again soon in the Institute. Bye-bye, guys.